great. That's just fucking great, man. Now what the fuck are we supposed to do?
So, there are a few genre films that seriously reward repeated watching. For me, right off the top of my head, I think The Shining. I think John Carpenter's remake of The Thing. I think The Exorcist. You got any?
Lost Boys.
Lost Boys.
Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead.
I've watched that movie more times than I can recite line for line. Lost Boys. I've seen that movie more times than I could possibly tell anyone.
So, now you know what we are. Now you know what you are.
For me, there's tons. I've seen Blade Runner about a million times.
American Werewolf.
Yeah, you're a big American Werewolf.
American Werewolf.
Science fiction goes.
Yep. Well, one of those for me is definitely Alien as well, the first of the franchise films. So, Alien is a 1979 science fiction horror film written by Dan O'Bannon and directed by Ridley Scott.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, one of the big ones. It concerns the crew of the corporate spaceship the Nostromo, who are drawn to an out-of-the-way planetoid by a strange signal and discover a long-abandoned extraterrestrial ship. While investigating the derelict, Kane, the Nostromo's executive officer, gets attacked by an egg-borne alien parasite that implants a deadlier creature in him that escapes onto the Nostromo after bursting out of his chest during a dinner scene.
It's a great scene.
It's a great scene.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my... Sorry.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my rack.
From that point on, the remaining crew struggled to survive against this predatory invader. The movie stars Tom Skerritt, John Hurt, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, Yaphet Kotto, Ian Holm, and Sigourney Weaver in her first portrayal of Ellen Ripley.
Great character.
It's a great character.
Legendary character.
Mm-hmm. Great action star later on.
Should be up there with any other science fiction character.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Dan O'Bannon began writing the script that would become Alien just a short time after he finished working on John Carpenter's first film, Dark Star.
Great movie also.
That's a good one, yeah. Essentially, O'Bannon wanted to recreate elements of Dark Star as a horror film instead of a black comedy. O'Bannon had briefly worked on Alejandro Jodorowsky's unfinished adaptation of Dune. This was around 1975.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mobius.
Which was how he met the artists Chris Foss, Jean Mobius Girard, and H.R. Giger. He was impressed by the work of all three men, but it was Giger's horrifying biomechanical paintings that impacted his Alien script the most. This was why Giger was brought in on the production to design all the alien creatures and artifacts on the movie. Incidentally, all the human environments were designed by another of Carpenter's collaborators on Dark Star, Ron Cobb. We did a podcast episode on Dark Star a long time ago. Yeah, it was great. The script languished at 20th Century Fox for a few years, but after the success of a little movie called Star Wars in 1977, producers were looking for any script with a spaceship in it and quickly greenlit the project.
Sci-fi was all the rage after that.
All the rage. O'Bannon originally wanted to direct it himself, but the studio wanted someone with more experience. Producers were impressed by Ridley Scott's first film, The Duelists, which, by the way, was the inspiration for Highlander.
I don't know The Duelists.
Yeah. And hired him to helm the project. Alien was released on May 25th, 1979. It received mixed reviews from critics. It seems many couldn't make up their minds whether they were watching an exploitation monster movie or an actual cinematic art film. Audiences responded very positively, though, and Alien made an estimated $185 million against a budget of $11 million.
That's a big budget right out of the gate. $11 million's a lot.
$11 million's a lot, but again, I think it's because Star Wars. They were putting throwing money at anything
science fiction
with a spaceship. Yeah. Eventually, after James Cameron's sequel Aliens in 1986, Alien would become the kicking off point of a multi-film, multi-million-dollar pop culture franchise, including everything from comic books to novels and video games and merchandise. But all this would come after one of the biggest missteps in the history of marketing and merchandising. Did you see Alien when it was in the movie theater?
No.
I did.
I did not.
My dad took me to see it.
1979, I was 7 years old.
I was 6, yeah.
What they would do when I was a kid is my uncle would probably see it first and then say if it was okay. Like, they took me to see Star Wars. I went to see Superman. I did not see Aliens in the movie theater.
Convinced my dad to take me to see it because it was a science fiction movie, and I saw every science fiction movie. Like, I saw Blade Runner in the movie theater.
Right.
and I was pretty young for that.
Yeah.
And this definitely I was pretty young for.
Okay.
But I do remember seeing it, and I wasn't scared of it as a kid.
I've never felt that the movie was scary horror wise. It's not like something that I would encounter in the real world. Like we were talking earlier, I was terrified of Jaws when I was a kid. I saw that when I was young, and I was terrified that could actually happen to me.
We've often talked about the movie that terrified me most when I was younger. It was the Salem's Lot television movie. Yeah, which one day we will cover.
Brian's afraid vampires will attack him.
Terrified of vampires. All right. Back to the movie. You see, after the blockbuster success of both the Star Wars movie and the truckload of cash made by 20th Century Fox, George Lucas, and the toy company Kenner, every science fiction movie was seen as a potential goldmine for toys and related merchandise. Despite being a terrifying, gory, R-rated monster movie, Alien was no exception. Kenner got the rights, which was inevitable, I suppose, given the success they had with the Star Wars toys, to make toys based on Scott's film. Toys for kids who could not buy a ticket to see Alien because of its R rating.
Which is a mistake.
Very big mistake. Kenner produced and manufactured an 18-inch tall figure of the movie's monster, later known to fans as the Xenomorph. The figure was a completely faithful recreation of the Giger design for the monster, with 5 points of articulation, if you count the tail, and a trigger button on the back of the head that extended the creature's interior or second set of jaws. With just a little bit of thought, the problem with this seems obvious. As adult fans, we look at this figure, which was eventually nicknamed the Big Chap by collectors, and marvel at his attention to detail and faithfulness to the movie costume. I mean, you're really getting a recreation of, like, a little sculpture of H.R. Giger's work. But the children of 1979 saw only fuel for their nightmares. Kids didn't want this in their room at night, and parents balked at the gruesome anatomy of this beast from the dark between the stars. Didn't your mom?
Well, I got one for Christmas one year, and my mother and father took it and hid it, and I've never seen it since. It was just considered too scary.
Is it potentially still somewhere in the box?
No one lives in any of the places that we lived at that time anymore. They may have returned it. My guess was they returned it. I think my grandparents bought it for me because I was, at that point, 1979, right? I was a huge Star Wars. Like anything I wanted was Star Wars. I got actually that Christmas. I probably got the Millennium Falcon. That Christmas, Star Wars was everything, and they saw it as, oh, this is Kenner. It's just like Star Wars. But alas, I saw it on Christmas and never saw it again.
Oh man, I had this toy, and I'm pretty sure he killed my 12-inch Luke Skywalker more than once.
It was perfect to fight the 12-inch Star Wars figures, and to fight. It was enough to fight Godzilla too.
Oh, he was big enough for the Shogun Warrior Godzilla for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you couple the horrifying aspect of this toy with the less than stellar quality of the figure's plastic and construction, the toy sold poorly. The toy broke easily. I remember even mine, the two middle fingers broke off on the monster's hand. It wasn't like
that the toy was made for playing with. It just didn't seem like the body was. I mean, the mouth, I remember it just that way the thing would snap out, and it had the clear dome on top of its head that was often lost.
I lost mine.
It just, it didn't, as far as toys go and marketing toys, it didn't make sense because toys from like Star Wars or from other movies at the time, they market themselves. A kid goes to see the movie, I want to recreate what happened in the movie with the toys.
Yeah.
When you release an R-rated movie, and I was reading recently that Kenner wasn't allowed to market the toy because they weren't allowed to show
what it looked like
before the movie came out. They didn't want to ruin, like today we would have seen it 6 months ahead of time.
Yeah, on YouTube.
We would have saw it on YouTube. They would have released and ruined every single aspect of it. Back then, they kept it a secret. They literally couldn't release the monster until after the movie came out.
Right.
And by then, what kid, besides crazy kids, were able to see the movie in the movie theaters? And there were no commercials until after the movie came out, and we all know that the shelf life of a movie isn't very long.
Yeah,
like it's not hot for a long time. Aliens wasn't hot for a long time.
I definitely watched it on cable though afterwards.
Oh, you did, but it didn't make you want to go out and buy it. And they're not keeping.
Well, by then it was gone.
They're not keeping a toy on a toy shelf for that long. The toy hits the toy shelf. It's supposed to be I guess, a big Christmas thing or whatever. It's not going to be big if there's no marketing behind it.
Right.
And they made one commercial. Let's watch the commercial right now.
Kenner presents new alien action figure.
Bayonets glow! Quick, shut the airlock! The alien's locked out now! He got through! Shh! Give up! Alien can't be beat! We'll zap him with the light! Don't, he'll destroy the spaceship! We've lost! Better find another ship! Let's try the kitchen! Another triumph for Alien!
Alien action figure. New from Kenner.
Other than that commercial,
There was nothing.
there was nothing in it. And I'm not sure that commercial makes me want to spend my toy dollars, or not my toy dollars because I was a kid, my wishes, like I was able to get some toys.
Yeah.
I'm fully going Star
You're
Wars.
going Star Wars, yeah.
I want a Rancor coming up soon.
Yeah. Well, Kenner eventually agreed, and they pulled the toy off the shelves.
because parents complained.
And parents complained, and kids weren't buying it. And then it was getting reviews because it broke easily.
Yeah, it goes back to what we've talked about before, like when they released the Freddy Krueger figure.
Yeah, who was that for?
Who is that for?
Right.
Toys are for kids predominantly. And I know nowadays
They're not.
we're part of it. They're not. We buy collectibles. We put them in. This toy is a phenomenal piece to display.
Yes.
It looks like Geiger's actual art.
It looks like a H.R. Geiger sculpture.
And it's perfect for display. It's big. It's definitely something where if you had it in your collection, someone would come and say, "Oh my God, look at that!"
Yeah.
But as a kid in 1979, there weren't a lot of collectors.
No.
Toys were made for kids. This is not a toy for a kid.
No, not at all.
That was their big misstep.
And this actually leads us to today. Poor sales of the first figure and the runaway popularity of the Alien franchise has made the Big Chap, that's what collectors still call it, a highly sought after collectible for grown-up fans. I actually remember seeing one of these figures in a store in Manhattan's East Village. The store was called Love Saves the Day. It was on 2nd Avenue, and it was a collectible store. I saw it in the late 90s, and then it was going for about $400.
Wow.
And now it's common for a complete in-the-box Big Chap to fetch around $2,000.
It's a lot.
It's not out of the...
Maybe I have one sitting somewhere.
Yeah. By the way, I sold mine at a garage sale in the early 80s for $5, and I thought I was ripping the guy off. In the late 1980s, after the enormous success of Cameron's Aliens, Kenner revived the Xenomorph toys again, but this time as a smaller 6-inch figures, more in scale with the popular figures of the time, like He-Man or those kinds of figures. By all accounts, they had better success this time, and many of those later figures are pretty cool, but they really lack the shock value of the Big Chap. The size, the slick black paint job, the chrome teeth, and the extended inner jaw really captured the horrific character of the original Alien. And it's probably what keeps it one of the most sought-after horror collectibles around. So what do you guys think? Did you have the Big Chap when you were a kid? I did.
I did.
You almost did.
Man, like this close.
And can you imagine if you still had it in the box now?
I couldn't. I would have sold it already, probably.
You probably would have sold it. Like what I did.
Yeah, I would have sold it already.
Right. Yeah, I sold it to try to raise money for probably for a skateboard or something.
Yeah, I would have sold it probably for a girl.
Could you trade in the 80s a big action figure for a girl back then?
Yeah, no, the money.
No one ever told me that.
In the 1980s, that thing went up to... And again, and honestly, it probably would have been when eBay first started around. You could have made a couple $100 on it. Like, I had a bunch of carded Star Wars stuff that I sold on eBay.
Really?
Yeah, they were selling for like $90 a pop.
Yeah.
I sold them at 90. I paid $5 for them. I sold them for 90.
Yeah. And now
I kick myself now. They're worth 400 now.
God, so much more. Well, it's like the Big Chap. Like I said, I saw it for 400. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it's $400. Now it's 2,000.
Yeah. You know. So I don't think the actual Aliens and none of the toys ever did really well.
But the later Kenner ones did better than this.
Better than that, but still, they had nothing to advertise to kids.
Right.
They never had a cartoon, which was planned but never happened.
Right.
The movies weren't geared towards kids, so there was always there's that little break between selling something that kids want and just selling something because it's a sci-fi movie.
Right, exactly.
It's not Star Wars.
No.
I've never owned an Alien toy. I know you have a couple.
I have a few, yeah.
I've never owned one.
I'm a very big fan of them.
I know you are.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so that's it. Let us know what you think. And if you get a chance, give us a like, maybe subscribe if you haven't already. Also, if you want to help support the show, you can find us at collectorsconfessions at patreon.com. You can send us an email at collectorsconfessions@gmail.com. Let us know what you think, if you have suggestions for future shows, whatever you want to talk about.
Or
We
just
will
become
talk
a member
back.
here. You can become a member on
Oh,
YouTube.
you can become a
or
member on
you can give
YouTube.
us a thanks.
Yeah, or drop us a couple of bucks.
Any
Thanks
little
if
bit
you want.
helps us.
Every little bit keeps the show going.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Love what you collect.
Collect what you love.
We'll see you next time.
Even if it's a big scary alien.
Scary alien will bite your head off.